Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. We got big news, breaking news from the NFL. They have banned off-site training camps. And it looked like there were only 10 teams affected, but guess what? Pittsburgh's one of them. Pittsburgh's been going to St. Vincent for as long as I can remember, probably before my time, where they would go in the summer to have training camp. It's a local college in Latrobe, 30, 45 minutes out of Pittsburgh. And I mean, I've been to plenty of training camps myself. It's always been like an annual thing for members of my family just to go and hang out. I remember like going back in the day and seeing people like Hines Ward, and you get to line up and come out and they talk to you for a bit, sign some autographs. I don't even think I haven't been really big into autographs, so I don't think I've ever gone just to get those, but just to go watch practice, try to see some of the players. And I mean, being a kid, I remember coming out and seeing someone like Hines Ward and being taller than him and just thinking like, wow, he looks much bigger on television. And so I think having it out of Pittsburgh made travel a little bit easier for people that were just looking to make a day trip. And I'm sure Latrobe benefited from having a ton of influx of people coming. And just, I mean, they're going to eat. So you're going to have at least restaurants and things that are now, they're going to be hurting, especially if they were relying on that type of cash influx that would normally happen in July. And so it's kind of, I mean, in terms of what we've been forecasting in terms of the season, I didn't even think that they would have open training camp at all, which it still might end up that way. We don't know. But as of right now, I would assumed that they would have been able to go wherever they would want, and you would think that it would be safer to be outside of the city.
But my whole thing with this is, how is having it, say, at the UPMC complex, how is that different or safer than having it at St. Vincent's? Because when they open camp, it's not during a time when there's going to be a lot of students on campus, and definitely because of the corona pandemic, you're having nobody on campus right now. So I would think that if they opened it up for training camp, and specifically for Pennsylvania, where they're progressively opening up county by county, the county that they would be in would be open by that time. You would think that they would be okay to return to Latrobe and have that as a regular practice.
Well, that was my thought too. And I know a lot of players live in Pittsburgh or have houses or whatever that they set up for during the season. So maybe that's their thought, is that, hey, we're going to keep it as normal as possible instead of having them go there. But I mean, I just don't know. Like, if you're not going to go to a place that has a ton more people, or I mean, ton less people, which St. Vincent would have, I just don't see how that's not a more risky option to have it in Pittsburgh. But I mean, that's just me from the outside. And like I said, maybe they're thinking the people that they come into contact with during training camp then in Pittsburgh are going to be the same people that they come in contact with during the regular season. And so that has to be the train of thought that they're putting out there. They're thinking, okay, cool. Here's everyone there. Here's everything that's going to happen when season starts up. We don't want to send camps off to some other location and then they're coming back to the city and bringing it back there. I mean, you can have, it gives them a couple months, I guess not really, 2 months maybe, to play around with like disinfecting workout equipment and your gear and all that other stuff on the facility that you're going to be using anyway for the games. I mean, that's the only way I can rationalize it, that it would make sense. But
well, and I know that there is a hotel that's right next to it, because Pitt, when they run their 7-on-7, there's opportunities for teams to stay right there at that hotel, so they could potentially be within walking distance. I could see if that's the way that they're going to do it, where they're just going to completely lock them down per se, and just have it where you're in your room, you're right there at the facility, and they're going to do something like that where there really is no reason for the players to have to leave that area. They're all just right there. That may be something that works to their advantage. But then I wonder, going further, if they're doing it that way, does that take away from, in the future, hosting camp out in Latrobe?
Like, I just don't see any reason for them to limit it in the future, because it's not like it's college football where, if you remember, Coach Harbaugh was having Michigan practice in like Alabama, and he had those camps, and everyone was like, yo, big foul. You're not allowed to come down here. That's a recruiting violation. Holding your training camp for the NFL, you're not recruiting anyone. So realistically, why would they limit that in the future? I figure this is going to be a one-year thing, and they're just trying to do whatever they can for PR, I guess.
I think it's the league being overly cautious, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it could establish a new norm that they go to that, and if it leads to, they're not able to interact with the fans as much during camp, so the players are more focused, and it turns to more production, they may just say, you know what, even though from the fan side it's something we've always done, we're just going to go to this new method where we can monitor the players more. There's less opportunity for, contracting things from being around more people, and just kind of just limiting, the players' freedom.
Well, they're gonna. I think at this point they're gonna have some other data points before they even get there, because other sports are talking about coming back. The one that we talked about last week a little bit was the NBA, and now they're looking at 22 teams playing, which it's dumb. If you go back and listen to my episode last week, I wanted them to do every team that has a losing record, which is like half of them, that aren't in the playoffs right now, like the bottom, was it 14 teams? I can't remember what it was. You give that top team a bye, and then you do a one-game, one-loss elimination tournament, NCAA style. And that's how you announce you're back. You say, like, look, we're back. We're doing it at a venue. We want to do it at Disney, whatever. It doesn't really matter. People are going to come in. You have a chance. If you're out, you go home. Like, you don't have to sit there. You don't have to stay. You don't have to risk infection. If your team keeps winning, you stay. And then once that's there, then they have like a couple days off or whatever, a week off, and then they start the regular playoffs, which whatever their idea is. If they want to do a full 7-game series, but it looks like they're going a different direction where, just like the NHL, that I had problems with how they were talking about cutting it off. I'm like, why cut it off? It makes zero sense. I mean, 2 teams were eliminated. Yeah, you could really cut them out and have a 12-team tournament, but does it really even matter? I think 16 is the amount that you would need to make it like an even matchup, single elimination tournament. So just go 14 and give the top 2 bye. Like, there's no reason if you cut 2 other teams out, then you have 12 teams and you have to give 4 byes. Like, weird. So their idea, though, is that they want to have these regular season games to see who actually makes the playoffs, which has to be for the TV money. But guess what? Now you're going up against football. And I've been saying it, Matt's been saying it on the show all the time. When we look at the TV numbers, football crushes basketball. So you're going to put, the last I saw was that their finals would be in October. You're going to go against, well, we don't know if baseball is going to happen, but you're going to go against like a traditional baseball championship and go into what's going to happen with football. Like, I just don't see anyone in the traditional like playoff spots. It's usually like a Sunday afternoon, like 3 p.m. showing, 3:30, something like that. Maybe Sunday night, but you're going to put basketball on against a Sunday night football game. I just find it's going to be different, and we'll finally have some hard data to see how many people actually watch the finals in that scenario. What if it's a complete blowout series like a lot of the NBA finals end up being? Is anyone going to tune in? Or are they going to get half? the viewers they normally get. A lot of people don't realize, but when you watch in June, the NHL doesn't do a good job of marketing themselves. Their games are barely on. They have like games 2 and 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals on cable TV only. Like the NBA is the only show that you can get over the air on ABC. It's the only sport that's really on in June, other than like college baseball or college softball. But now you're throwing that up against the NFL. I think that's crazy. I'd be doing anything to get it rolling before then.
Yes.
I mean, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I think that's why with the AAF, with the XFL, with all these other football leagues, they do everything in their power to not conflict with the NFL season or with college football, because push comes to shove, that's going to be your top draw.
Yeah, and just even going a little bit deeper, I mean, you're going to have regular season games for the basketball that are happening when everyone's hungry for like early college football or whatever, or unless you're starting the playoffs in July and they take that long to finish. But like I had said, I would just look at cutting out that first round that's never really competitive and just make it a 5-game series or a 3-game series. Like try to cut those down. You're already worried about travel and all this other stuff. Are you having that? Like you could say we're going to do that single elimination tournament the first week of July, playoffs start the second week of July, and we're doing a compressed like schedule where there's not going to be a lot of travel and things like that. And we aim to be done by the end of August, something like that. Like, why not? Why not just have a game every day? I mean, they do it in the summer. They have the summer league games. They're playing every day. They don't need gigantic rests. It's not like the way the NBA TV schedule is set up is because you have an East and West, and they had to travel extra days because back in the day, they barely had, like, they didn't have private jets. So you had to follow like a flight schedule that could get you back and forth. Look at all the ones from Boston to LA. Like that was a big sticking point. I think there's been articles that ESPN's put out about it and how they could change it for the future now and shorten some of the schedule, but they just really haven't because they're used to it. It's consistent. They know what they're going to get, but now you have a chance to end that. And I just don't know. Like they're trying to get the TV money, but that's not going to happen. You're not going to have the revenue from people in the stands. That's not going to happen. And then you're at the point where baseball is right now. Why would players sign off on that? I don't know if you saw, Matt, but they had talked about Major League Baseball. They went back and someone said like a 50-game schedule or an 80-game schedule. And then the other side wanted like 120 games or something like that, which is just ridiculous, where they were doing like double headers every day just because they wanted the money that they were going to miss out. And so I think you're going to get like a half a season, because you could start and just do an 82-game schedule and just play after the All-Star break, which would be about mid-July. Like I said, which seems to be the time frame of everything opening back up. You might not have full capacity crowds or whatever, but I think at that point you could have some people come in and just keep the distance or whatever, and then you play that. I think the sticking point right now is the owners, for whatever reason, they're really trying to push the shared revenue, where they only want to pay players based on what they get, which points us at like a salary cap almost. But it's not even going to be as good as other sports, because I read, was it the Cubs? I think it was the Chicago Cubs owner came out and said, look, we don't have money stashed. Normally, it depends on how much an owner makes and how much they put back into it. But guess what? They're not showing us what they make and how much they put back into the team. It's guys guessing based on the salaries that they're putting out. So we have guys like Bob Nutting that just keep crying poor. Oh, I'm poor, I'm poor. And then it comes out that they're like the 5th most watched team on television. They might have a poor TV deal. People are like, why aren't they getting more money? And then it's like, oh, we're a small market. But how do we know he doesn't have other endorsement deals that are gigantic? It's not like he's going to sign them and he's not Floyd Mayweather. He's not going to tweet a picture of it. Like, oh, look what I just cashed. Cash money, baby. That Pirates jersey. I just licensed that to 15 new colleges or 15 new high schools. Like, he's not going to do that. So we honestly don't know other than what they're telling us. And so, like, yeah, the Yankees might have a harder time hiding some of theirs because they have their own television network that partners put out numbers to. But, like, the Pirates have a lot of stuff that they're not going to show. And these other teams, they don't want to show either. So they keep telling the players, like, oh, we just don't have extra money stashed, and we're going to have to take a loss. My thing is, who cares? How many years in a row have you had record-breaking revenue? You have to take a loss 1 year. Like, it's not the end of the world. You bounce back with your record revenues next year whenever things are opened back up completely. It drives me nuts. If baseball doesn't come back, but football does, like, they have to blame themselves at some point. Because you could just eat the first half of the season and say, you know what? We have had these record deals. And we're going to bring that to the table next time we're doing, like, our open discussion. But right now, we just want to play ball. Like, let's go. Like, if we sign the contracts, we're going to just pay them. Like, that's the good faith thing to do. And then guess what? There might not be a lockout next time because a lockout hurts everyone. And right now, what it's looking like is they're going to have another lockout. So, thanks. That's my baseball take.
Very well
thoughts
said.
on that? Have any thoughts on basketball or baseball? I mean, at some point, I just think that they just need to start.
Well, I think with both of them, they need to start. And when you look at the NBA, they can easily kind of just cut back on the seating, and it looks like they have the plan ready to go. It's just a matter of just do it. Just get the players into camp and get them into, if it's not every state that's open right now, get to it, find the places that you're going to play your games at and get going with it. And I think that to me, that's the biggest thing, is that everyone's being so tentative, and I don't know what the holdup is at this point, because you're seeing that in a lot of these places, states are starting to open back up and people are being out more. And yes, you're having some numbers going up, but I don't know that it's unexpected numbers, because we knew when you go from staying in your house to going out that people are going to be at risk of either contracting or spreading some of the virus. But I agree with you. I think it's hurting Major League Baseball. I know that there were the big point is what they're doing salary wise, and they were talking about just prorating it based off of where they were at, which I don't think is a bad idea. If you're saying, if I'm paying you from what is it, 156? It's just like
162.
162. But then if you're cutting that, you're cutting that down. Players that are coming back, having a back and forth with, is just pick it up and go.
Well, I think that's where the issues come in, because I think it came out that a lot of minor leaguers have been cut, or like they're not getting paid at all, to the point where, wasn't it David Price that picked up a bunch of, he was sending people like $1,000 if they were part of the Dodgers? Where's he at these days?
Yes.
And so you have
because they said that, I read that it was special because he hadn't even played for them yet. He just signed.
Yeah, but Matt, like I said, you have one random pitcher doing that, but the owner can't? Like, give me a break. What's the pitcher doing? If he blows his arm out next year or something happened, like let's say he would get sick and something happened to him where he couldn't pitch again, where's he making that money back? He owns nothing. Like at that point, it's a joke. I mean, great on him. Great guy. I mean, if any player came out and was like talking trash on him, like, I'd just be like, what's wrong with you? Like, he's off limits now. But like anyone else, like any of the owners, it's kind of like, dude, don't be a joke. Like, you're in LA. Like, you're the only game in town right now, if you want it to be. But like, I mean, looking at the NHL, I wanted to see if they had any updates. Of course, it's been a week. They haven't had any updates. They're still talking about the host cities. Like, hey, let's get the ball rolling here. If you were to jump on it before the NBA, how many people would you pick up just because you're the only thing on TV? Hell, we joked about it a couple weeks ago. They were showing fake horse races where someone did it on a computer program and then ran it. And then people were watching that. I don't know what the ratings were for it, but wow. If they're going to have ratings for that, on, was it NBC, which is who has a contract with the NHL. Like, I would think that they'd be putting it on their premier channel, and they wouldn't be even shoving anything on NBC Sports right now. You could have games on both channels, and they would probably clean house. They'd have record revenues. So why not go ahead and do that? And the only difference, though, with the NHL and I think the NBA, they share revenue. So those teams that are left out of the playoffs, they're still going to get their money. Where Major League Baseball, that's their problem. They're different from the other leagues because the owners don't share money and there's no salary cap. So whenever they come back and play these unbalanced schedules or whatever, only half a season, how are you going to tell some of the teams, like, hey, guess what? You don't get the Yankees coming to town this year. Well, what if we can't sell the tickets? They go, oh, too bad. You have to play 13 series games with the with the Reds. Or, like, I'm trying to think of a team that would be bad. I almost said the Browns.
Well, then they can have a situation where they can have an undefeated season. They would want to do that.
So, I mean, that's where you get the questions with Major League Baseball and why it's so different. And then just, like, cutting minor leaguers and stuff, like, it's almost like they're going to blow up the whole system. And that's where I said, and it's been it's like a pipe dream of mine. But baseball is the one sport where, hey, if you don't want to share revenue and you don't want to do all this other stuff, get rid of the minor league system and just do it like Premier League in soccer, like England does it, where it's you get promoted. Like Tampa Bay Rays, your team's so poor and performing so bad the past couple years, and like the Pirates, you're not going to put any money into it. Guess what? You're now a minor league team. Durham Bulls, you won AAA title a couple years in a row. Like, guess what? You're in. You're now a major league team. And I honestly think that I wish that's what would happen. Because you have teams that come in and they have these guys. And then I think you would get a lot more. And I know it's going to be tough, but like I said, at this point, you have owners not paying minor league salaries. Who cares anymore? Because the argument in that favor before was saying, well, the Yankees paid to go to the Dominican Republic. If they discovered this guy, they have him on contract since he's been 14 years old. Now he's in the minor league system. Like, that's just a Yankees guy. And to be honest, I should have used the Marlins because the Marlins were the ones that were really exploiting that on their way to 2 World Series titles. They had these young kids that they had signed because they were scouting outside of the United States. And so now you're not even paying those guys. Like, they should be free to sign wherever. And I think that's where they should just say, you know what? We can't have the season. We're not paying our guys. And that's where I go against the argument, Matt, like you said, oh, well, let's just pay them prorated based on the games they played. Like, they signed the contract. What happens if he gets hurt? If a guy has Tommy John, what he's going to accept? The average that they put out, I saw it from Buster Olney. I think he said that the average Major League Baseball player does not even make $1 million. So in most Major League guys only last, like, it's just like football. You only last like 2 or 3 years.
But to me, I look at that more as an issue with the leadership of Major League Baseball. That when they go into their negotiations, you know, I think you can negotiate if the perception is that the owners are making all of this money, then by having some of that money being distributed to the players through their agreements, then they should, you know, give in to a salary cap, you know. And I know that like that that maybe is controversial to say that because baseball is going to play a lot more games, but I think if you think that the money's actually in the marketing and the television deals and everything else, then maybe that's the better route to go, and to try to get in where they're paying everyone, and then that forces the hand of the owners that they're not paying, you know, $500 million to one player, and they have more money in those type of deals to spread it down through the system.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more along the lines of like the rookie contract, and I think that's where teams get screwed. And that's basically the system that the Pirates have been exploiting for decades, where they have these rookies come up, they give them the rookie contract, which is set based on like their draft pick or whatever, whenever they signed them. And so they have that young guy locked in for 5 or 6 years. And then guess what? That player, they're up. So then they go and sign with the Yankees or whomever, or the Pirates have to end up trading him anyway. They say, okay, he's going to go. And so right now it's more, and they keep saying, well, that's kind of like the minor league system. They have to work their way up just like everyone else. But to me, that's just a scam so that the big market cities can just pick their own players once they come through. So like you get some hot young guys like on the Marlins, guess what? They're never going to be able to afford all them. And so once they're over, like they're basically a rookie team. That's the franchise. So by getting rid of the minor leagues, guess what? You can't feast on that anymore, Pirates. You either have to start paying the guys and getting some good guys that will draw some crowds, or drop to the minor leagues. Like, it's very simple. Like a lot of these grasshopper league teams and whatever that are down here around me, like I understand that they're good for like college kids getting some looks, but just why? I just don't understand. Like, and I think this could be a break point where we finally break out of these old systems that really don't make sense in the age of now. Like, how many people go to see an Altoona Curve game and say, you know what? I go because these are the future Pirates. Like, 0 people go there. They just go because it's cheap and it's professional baseball. Like, that's honestly why people go.
But I think I have heard arguments from people that say that use that exact point. Why go from Altoona to Pittsburgh and drive the 2+ hours to see a bunch of players where you can save a pile of money, go to the minor league, you can still see them. It's a great ballpark to go to and catch a game. So to me, it's less of a headache to go there, and you're going to see players that come up through.
Wouldn't it be much better if Altoona could just get called up and be the professional team? Like, how much money would that instantly inject into Altoona?
Oh, probably inject a lot more.
Yeah, it'd be a ton. If they went on a run and they were promoted to, like, I would see them doing it in like 3 tiers. Like, just a 2-tier system just wouldn't work just based on how many minor league teams they have. But I mean, a 3-tier system, Altoona would probably be in the lower tier right now. But eventually, if they work their way up, why not? Why couldn't they be the middle team? I don't even know what to call them right now. But like major leagues, and then you have the minors, and then you have like the developmental league or whatever. Like, right, they'd start at the developmental level, but who knows? Maybe they could become a minor league team then and just jump up to the majors someday. Like, why not? You have all these other teams that can't even draw anyone. Like, it's bad whenever AAA has the same amount of attendance as the Tampa Bay Rays. It's just a bad look, and then you're locked in with that owner. At some point, like, it gives the owners an out too. Like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to pay. Could you imagine if the Yankees end up getting bought by like some tech guy, and then he's just like, you know what? I just don't care anymore, and just let them bottom out to become a minor league team. Like, that would be the only thing that I could see, like, baseball traditionalists just go crazy about. But I honestly don't think it would ever come to that with those top teams, just because right now they pay so much more. They would never be at risk. It's always the same teams at the bottoms. Like, let's mix them up. That's my only thing. And that's just because there's randomly nothing else to talk about. And it's been bothering me just reading some of the baseball stuff. Oh, we can't come back. What are minor leagues going to do? What's this going to do? How, like, we're going to lose so much money. And I honestly think that that's why they're losing so much money too, because they're looking at getting the minor league systems back up too. So, we have to run like 4 different stadiums and 4 different things, when in the big picture, that doesn't matter. Like, okay, so you have to pay these guys, but what if you didn't? What if right now I offered you an option to cut bait and say, you know what? We're going to bring baseball back, but their minor league system, it's up for grabs. I can bid you out. We can get owners to bid on buying those teams, and they'll get set up whatever in like a delegate or like a promotion system, and we can get that set up in next year. You have a chance, but you can't get promoted until, like, we'll give it like 3 years or something, like, just to get the initial 2 leagues set up. And you sign the players so you can pick and they can have a draft or whatever. Like, it would instantly solve all of the problems. All the people that aren't getting paid, guess what? Now you have new owners coming in and bidding on the future. Like some guys, look at Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban wanted to buy the Pirates. The old boys came in and said, you know what? We don't want you to be a Major League Baseball owner. Like, how is that not against the law? Oh, it's a private club. Oh, but what? We have to use your tax money to build our stadiums. Like, it's a complete bullshit system. So don't cry that you don't have money to pay all these contracts because you have to pay minor leagues. Cut them loose. Put it up for bid. I mean, the XFL, Vince McMahon had to do that. And now he's not even going to bid against it. And I think they had 6 bids on the XFL, Matt. Or 6 at least potential bidders. I think it could have been as high as 12 from what I've heard. But I haven't been talking to my contact buddy yet just because things aren't on. So it's tough to keep in contact with people whenever you don't ever see anybody. But that's my end rant. Anything else for baseball or even the XFL?
No, I don't have anything for
the
it.
XFL. Apparently, Orlando is in play. I mentioned it last week. That's a big thing. Orlando with Steve Spurrier. That's going to be one of the first teams bought. Book that. If they come back, there's even been one owner that put in a bid that they're looking to expand right off the bat. And to me, that kind of scares me because I don't think that would work. Unless you went, like I said, you have to go into a set playoffs and you would have to go to 16 teams? 10, what do they have this year? 10, 8? How's the schedule going to work if you have an unbalanced league? Look at how bad the Big Ten was for a while when they had 11, and then even 12 in terms of teams is unbalanced. 14 is just awful in college football. So, I mean, they have to make it work, but those other ones, you don't know. I think for college football, things are setting up that it's going to happen. And right now, I think everything's on track. The big news that came out, I think it was today or yesterday, Notre Dame and Navy had to move their game out of Ireland. I actually forgot that was this year, but I'm surprised Notre Dame didn't just announce it whenever they announced that they're coming back, because I think their plan is pretty much set in stone. They're bringing athletes and stuff back in June. I think Florida State and a lot of the ACC schools are doing the same. I think North Carolina announced that down here, where they're coming back in June. They're doing straight through from August to Thanksgiving, and then that's it. Athletes can be in. I haven't heard if it's going to be full classrooms yet, or if they're just going to offer some lectures online only, which to me makes sense because your lecture classes are going to be where you have the most people. And so it's going to be hardest to put them in. And also, I mean, thankfully, that's the easiest way to get something digitally, is to just let a lecture go online. Like, you don't actually have to be in there taking notes on a lecture. If you're that undisciplined, how are you going to take notes and do your job in the real world? So I always like taking lecture classes online when I could. And even if you do some of the professional development stuff when you get out there, I think that's the best way to do it because you can work at your own pace. And it's just a lot more effective and more applicable to the real world. But we'll see if that happens across the board. They've been putting out a bunch of stuff on trying to get back. Of course, the Pac-12, like we said, they had talked about having spring football, but once the other states said that they're going to have regular football season, they're back in. There's no way they're going to have their own Pac-12. I mean, it wouldn't even be the Rose Bowl. What would they have? I guess it would be. They could just rename it the Rose Bowl, and then after the Rose Bowl, the second Rose Bowl. I don't even know. I can't even come up with a good joke. But they're back in, which I'm not surprised. And then, of course, USC signs they have commits. They didn't sign yet, but 2 top 40 quarterbacks. What are you looking at? As a young high school athlete, what do you see with that USC team that makes you think, wow, things are really going great here? I'm not going to have a new coach next year. Because you're 100% going to have a new coach in sometime in the next 4 years, you're getting a new coach. Clay Helton will not be there. He was almost fired last year. I'm surprised he's still there. Otherwise, you're signing on for what? an 8-win team? Like, people talk trash on Jim Harbaugh saying, like, he hasn't done much at Michigan. Clay Helton would die for the seasons Harbaugh's been putting together. Like, could you imagine USC would sign him for life if he was able to average 10-win seasons, Matt? Which he should be doing. I mean, could you imagine if he won every game he was supposed to win? Because that's what Harbaugh's doing. Like, they'd be a 10-win team just like Michigan. It's ridiculous. But no, can't write any articles about him. I mean, they could end up with like a Steve Sarkisian again. Like, I just don't understand what they're looking at and what they're worried about. But that seems to be happening. I think the other college news, big news, Zion Williamson, he's getting the Chris Webber treatment, Matt.
And what might that be?
His agent apparently came out and said that he had a deal in place with Zion that he can prove from his high school days where he took money to go to Duke. And then Zion didn't pay him back. So it's kind of like a loan based on, hey, here's your money. We're going to give you this under the table. So, of course, you're not getting caught that Duke's paying you. I don't know if Duke was paying him and then he was like shifting the money to Zion. And he said, I think it was a he, they said that whenever he got the money, Zion was supposed to pay him back. It was like, I don't even know what the actual amount was. Let's look up and see if I can find it. But it comes out, and Williamson tried to get it thrown out because he didn't want to testify. See, Chris Webber testified, and they said that he lied. So whenever he lied, that's what got him and the University of Michigan in a ton of crap. Like, it wasn't so much that the money thing, because as we see across the college basketball landscape, like Kansas, they paid their players. What has happened? Nothing. Like, it's the lying and the under oath. So he tried to sidestep it, but they said, no, you have to come under oath and say that you didn't take money, which is exactly what Chris Webber did. And then guess what? They said, oh, but we got you though. We have the proof that you did take money. So he's going to have to say like, okay, I took the money, right?
You don't have to say anything.
Plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth. Lawyer up.
I mean, he's going to have to, or he's going to have to pay the guy, though. If he pleads the fifth, he's going to have to pay the agent. And to me, why wouldn't he have paid him already? Now you're making yourself look really bad by not just settling this outside of court right now. It's gone on too long. Like, why? It does say Gina Ford. So it is a woman, I think. Let's see. They're suing. Oh, well, okay. That's why they didn't pay him. It's $100 million is what the lawsuit's for. I thought it was $100,000, which silly me. Of course he would have paid the $100,000. He's probably begging for it to be $100,000. So Zion, I apologize. When you listen to this, still, I don't know what to tell you to do now, actually. I was going to tell you to plead the fifth, settle outside of court, and then it's over. But now, $100 million? Yikes. The Florida 11th Circuit Court Judge, David Miller, already ruled that he's required to answer interrogations from the attorneys representing Gina Ford and Prime Sports Marketing. So let's see what they filed. If I have actual other things here. They had a 5-year contract with him. So that's probably why the amount's so high. But still, $20 million a year? I guess he makes more of that in endorsements anyway. He made us a ton of money, so that's going to be it. So they said that the money and other benefits from people acting on behalf of Adidas and Nike that were associated with Duke that influenced him to sign with the Blue Devils and then to wear Nike or Adidas products once he went to the professional leagues, which is just like every other team that was named. I mean, that was the stuff they have Kansas on right now. That was the stuff they had all those other schools on. So they came out and said, hey, there's more people doing the exact same thing. Here's a $100 million lawsuit. Like, good luck with it. So, wow. I don't even know. So some people are saying that So some laws would protect him because he's a college athlete, but they're saying, from what I've seen, that the other way to get around it is if he took the money and they have that proof, he was ineligible to be a college athlete, so those laws don't apply to him. Which could be the craziest roundabout thing that they're going to try to throw at that judge.
Well, they may try to do that as a way to prevent some of the other stuff of paying athletes. That if they're saying, well, now you're going to give up your amateurism, that could end up coming back to bite them.
Well, that reminds me, that can be the thing that I end on. So I had one more thing that I was probably going to forget. So a lot of those commissioners from the Power 5 conferences or whatever they each named themselves and turned a letter into the NCAA saying that they wanted the payment for players to pass. But they wanted additional stipulations saying that the university was not going to pay them. It was not going to interfere with their scholarship money. Like, that was still their payment as a way. So it was almost like that they're just allowing them to get outside jobs. And they also said that for recruiting purposes, that boosters or known associates with the school were not allowed to just pay money to these people. But then what are you going to end up with?
Middlemen.
Yeah, you're in the same system then. And how do you know? Like, what if one of your alums owns like an NFL team or owns this, and they're just going to come out and say, hey, you know what? Like, you're not allowed. Like, you definitely can't do that because you're an alum. You're a known booster. You donated money. But then, like, they're laundering money. Like, some other university is able to launder through some nerd alum that never donated to their sports school, and they're able to hire. Like, it's weird, like, that they have these stipulations, and how are you going to police it? I don't see any reason that this is going to help the players. Like, on the outside, it should be anything goes. If a bunch of former football players that are in the NFL want to put together a GoFundMe to help their nephew get recruited to the same school they went to, just as an example, or let's say their cousin, because a lot of cousins end up on the same team or whatever. Like, what's stopping them?
There shouldn't be anything.
I mean, like, I can't think of any brothers off the top of my head, but didn't the Clausens have a bunch of brothers? Like, what if Jimmy Clausen came through and was like, yo, or was he the youngest or whatever? Like, whatever. But one of the Clausen brothers, the older one, just says, hey, you know what? I'm going to throw together a GoFundMe for my brother. Actually, McCaffrey, his younger brother's on Michigan right now. So what if Christian McCaffrey said, hey, guys, I'm going to start a GoFundMe. I went to Stanford, so I'm not a Michigan alum, but I want you to donate to my brother, and we're going to put together a Heisman hopefuls or some like brothers in the pros like ad campaign, and then boom, he's instantly getting millions of dollars from his brother / someone that's not associated with the university. So it's fair, Matt. Like, why not? Like, that would just be the craziest thing, and that could 100% happen under this plan. But some other booster could not do that.
It's weird.
It's a slippery slope. I'm already throwing it out there. And that McCaffrey example, I think, would be clean. Like, what are they going to say? Like, hey, you can't raise money for your own brother. Like, that's just crazy. They're never going to do that. That would never pass.
No, but I think at the same point, I could just see them if he just gives his brother, like, why would they stop giving a donation from Christian McCaffrey to his brother? He's my brother. I want to give him money. Well,
they, going back, they stopped Marcus Lattimore from helping recruit at South Carolina when he wanted to be a football coach there. They told him go be a football coach at a different university. So, like, if Christian McCaffrey wanted to give the money to Stanford player, like, no. But because his brother is on Michigan, if he wanted to give it to a Michigan player, 2 thumbs up, baby. Go for it. That's what they're saying. It's like the craziest thing. So, like, Deion Sanders could come out and say, I want to give a bunch of money to the Knowles. They say, nah. But then he can say, oh, you know what? I'm going to give it to where my son goes. instead because I can't give it to Florida State. Like, they're not good enough for them. I forget. I don't know where his son goes, but it's crazy like that. So that's my last thing I had that came through this week. You have anything else?
No, the only other thing that I had was just we appreciate the continued support and glad that you guys are tuning in. And if you have any comments or things you want us to hit us up on our social media.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to keep it going. You can check us out at southboundsports.com. We put all our episodes there. And as we get ready, it's tough to put extra stuff up right now because there is nothing happening. And it's just all opinions. So we might as well just give them on the show because we don't have like numbers or anything. And if you listen to the show for a while, you know, we normally try to go by TV numbers or stats and things like that. And there's just none right now. So definitely don't forget about us. And at least bookmark it for when sports do come back. But we appreciate the support, and we will see you next week.